inhabitants, we have a village, or a town I will call it, because there are more than 20,000 people there. Tegina in Niger State. Tegina in Niger State is in my constituency. There are more than 20,000 people living around that town. But we have only 8 policemen. Only 8 policemen in the whole city. Only 8 policemen. Somebody came from Zamfara State, who ran away from Zamfara State and came and settled in Tegina. This man bought 40 motorcycles and gave to the youths. Empowered some of them with 25,000 to set up these tea spots. Now that man became a lord in Tegina, recruiting our young men that have become porous. A 13-year-old boy that was recently arrested was used to be the informant between the bandits and this lord. He will give him money to take a vehicle from Tegina to Bhuari, and then he will communicate that the road is clear. The next thing you will hear, there is an attack. The same people that have been arrested now narrated this thing to the policemen. Before you know it, a lawyer has gone to court talking about fundamental human rights. And before you know it, those same people that have been arrested are being released. And they will go back again and you arrest them again because they commit the same offense. So where is the architecture? How do you make it work? Mine. No. I think this is very important. This is very important because we...
You can round up distinguished Senator.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, if we want to be honest with ourselves, and when we are talking about security architecture, why are the service chiefs, why is the Inspector General still in office? Right. In a decent society, they're supposed to resign. Mr. President have done everything that need to be done. But a lot of us will sit down and shy away from being, I'm telling the truth. Yeah. They kill these innocent people every day. A young man who has a future, postgraduate student in Usman Danfodio University was shot dead for no reason in my constituency. So if we are talking about security architecture, we don't sit down and be talking about what they do only in United Kingdom. In developed countries, they are advanced. Let's be talking about reality of our own localities. I think there will be need to go further. Let's set up an ad hoc committee of the Senate to interface with all the security agencies and bring out the reality of this. Some of us will be able to talk in that kind of ad hoc committees and bring facts of what we should do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And in that summit, we invited everybody that is supposed to be invited, from the service chiefs to traditional institutions that we feel are relevant and they can make very good contribution towards the security, solving the security challenges of the country, to even some of us here. And we came up with very good resolutions and recommendations. Mr. President, I don't know what happens to those recommendations. We should go back, get them. If they are dusted, remove the dust and send them to the executive. I believe all what is supposed to be said has been said at that seminar. That notwithstanding, Mr. President, there are other developments that have happened recently that need to be addressed. Mr. President, the issue of state police. I think the way we are going about it, we are putting the cart before the horse. Our constitution has put security under exclusive legislative list. And for us to have state police, we just have to amend the relevant sections of the constitution. The former Deputy Senate President had made it very clear that state police could be the answer to the current challenges we are facing in the country. But in doing so, Mr. President, we have to amend the relevant sections of the Constitution. If we don't do that, we are putting the cart before the horse. And remember that amending the Constitution does not start and end here. We have to refer it to the state assemblies, where we have to get 24 state legislatures to support the amendment. If we don't do that, we can't go anywhere. Secondly, Mr. President, on the issue of banditry, kidnapping for ransom, every SIM card in this country is presumed to be registered by telecommunication companies. And right now, the kidnappers are using SIM card to negotiate ransom. Mr. President, we can easily get trackers. It's not very costly. State government and also local government can even buy trackers and give it to the police or to JTF or whatever. And we can easily track these kidnappers, get them apprehended, and let them face the music. But we have not done so, Mr. President. So telecommunication companies should work hand in hand with the security agents to get kidnappers, bandits, and apprehended so that they can be prosecuted. Mr. President, it is true that Nigerian police is overwhelmed. The personnel strength of 300,000 is not adequate enough to police over 200 million people. So we need to recruit close to about 1 million police force. This is the way out. Right now, we have recruited the army to do the job they are not supposed to do. The army is supposed to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. They are not supposed to be involved in civilian operations. And we have now brought them and exposed them to this. So, Mr. President, let's confine the army to their traditional role of protecting territorial integrity of Nigeria and recruit more police officers to take care of the internal security. It is only when the police are unable to overcome the security challenges then we can bring the army. No, I'll wind up. Mr. President.
Round up.
Mr. President, we discussed in this chamber about the police reform bill where funds will be sourced for the police force. It's now time for us to reintroduce that bill, do whatever we can do, add whatever we can add. The executive, I understand, rejected that bill because of certain insertions that were made. Let's discuss with the executive. Let's be at the same page with them. But it's important we pass it because that's the only way we can get the money to fund the police force. If we don't do that, forget about the state police, forget about any other police force. There's no way we can get enough money to fund the security operation in this country. So the solution now is to pass the police reform bill so that money can be generated to fund whatever recruitment we want to make in the police force. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator George Thompson.
Align myself with some of the speakers that spoke before me, that we have a very serious issue before us, which has to do with the security of this country. And by extension, it has to do with lives and property. For people like me that have seen it in my state, when farmers could no longer farm, traders could no longer go to the markets, we know what people are saying when they are talking on how do we solve the security problem of this country. Mr. President, three things revolve around our security. One of them has to do with Boko Haram in the northeast. The other one has to do with banditry, cattle rustling in northwest and part of north central. While the other one has to do with kidnapping, ritual killings, which is spread almost all over the country. Mr. President, I have already been harassed by the timekeeper, so I would want to go straight to what I think could be a resolution or could be the way out to resolve this problem. One of the way out, Mr. President, has to do with, to me, there is nothing wrong to visit the past. Pre-independence and immediately after independence, the security of this country was perfect. We know there are some innovations with growth of population and the rest. Certainly, there will be the need to perfect whatever was on ground at that time for us to be able to contain the current. So I suggest, Mr. President, there is need for us to at least engage the traditional rulers for proper surveillance of their domains. By doing this, I believe they have the chance, they have the opportunity to know who is coming in, who has done what, and they can immediately maybe help to arrest and hand over to the police. So also the community policing we are talking about. Secondly, I may not go for state police, but definitely I agree that there should be community policing, because it is a fact that the current police we have are overstretched. And before we could recruit maybe 1 million policemen, as suggested by one of the elder statesmen, I think it will be too late. At least let each and every state be allowed to arrange and perfect a community policing of itself, and then maybe find a way of how to liaise with the police of the Federation on how to curtail some of these problems. I wouldn't want this gentleman to continue harassing me, Mr. President, so I want to say thank you and allow other contributors.
Medical class, of the business class, to assist the government in using the police in the best way they could. Example, why was police carved out of Ministry of Internal Affairs? Why do we have Minister of Police Affairs? Why? Why do we have Police Service Commission? Because all of us here, or most of us, we carry one police or the other. And then we go around with them. We know that there are 300,000. The political class, each and every one of us, one police. The businessmen, one police. We have become even paranoid of the insecurity that we have in this country. Everybody is going and looking at his side, thinking that I want police by my side. Now we have personalized the use of police, you know, and made community policing or community police subservient to personal police. Now, police have respect for individuals and no longer for the people of this country. So, until we reform police by depoliticizing police, by demilitarizing police, and communalize police, we will not have the direction in which we will go. Whether we have state police, community police, Amotekun, and what have you, that will not solve the problem. We must agree that we should not personalize the use of police in this country. And then, thirdly, if we agree we are not going to personalize the use of police, what is the use of civil defense? Let civil defense take over the role of police and police go and do their rightful duties. What is the use of military, on our streets every day? Why? So we have actually bungled or jumbled this and this. The use of police is not defined again. The use of military has been mixed up and what have you. Until we redefine the uses, how we use our security apparatus, we'll continue to have this. That is the direction in which I think we should go. Thank you very much.
Senator Betty
started creeping in, and that government felt that it was not an issue. Down the road, subsequently, Somalia has become a fair state. What am I saying? Once we begin to have a situation where non-state actors are now taking the stage of state and acting in such manner, Mr. President, we are in problems. We have all kinds of security apparatus set up by individuals, by regional government, and different kinds of people. That means that there is a systematic failure on the part of state. And Mr. President, state, as defined by one political philosopher, Max Weber, that state, and he characterized them, and one of the major characteristics is what we're talking about here. That state must have monopoly of legitimate violence. That means that there must be a centralized monopoly of that legitimate violence in order for the state to enforce laws. Once there is failure on our part to do that, then we're heading towards Somalia, we're heading towards Chad. Mr. President, nobody wishes that we'll get to that route. But what we're discussing here is for us to avert that. And we must be very serious. And I'm happy that you have guided us properly. Otherwise, when we were leading this debate, it would have been like a joke. Now, Mr. President, why do we, at all times as Nigerians or as leaders, suggest creation of new institutions when we have an issue such as this? We have the police. We're not talking about strengthening the police, giving them proper training. Mr. President, in about 1982, there was a police officer, Adewusi. Adewusi took time and trained one of the best police forces that ever existed. And part of the military coup at that time was the fear of the military that the police might eventually take over from the military. Mr. President, let us strengthen the police. You said creation of state police. It will solve no problem. Mr. President, we've created State Electoral Commission. Yes. Can any one of us here, in any state, I don't think that if there's election in Yobe, PDP will be able to win even a constitution.
Senator Gabriel Suswan, your time is up.
Please, let me learn. What I'm saying is that, Mr. President, is that let us not be suggesting creation of new institutions to solve a problem. Let us strengthen the institution. We can strengthen the police. The police can be well trained and giving them an orientation that will give them proper direction for them to handle security issues. Instead of saying that state police in the hands of some individuals as governors. Mr. President, I was a governor before. There's no way that you allow governors to create state police that this democracy will survive. It will not survive.
Thank you very much for that revelation. Distinguished Senator Ale,
We are to discuss and debate on what is wrong and how to put it, how to make it right. What are the shortcomings and how could they be addressed? Mr. President, other speakers have mentioned so many things that, that need to be addressed, including the synergy between the various security services, which has been a major concern for several years now. Each agency wants to take credit for achieving one feat or the other, instead of working together to achieve a common goal. Mr. President, I'm so surprised that in many states, in those ways where I come from, you go to Zamfara, they know where these bandits are. They are somewhere between Gusau Ape, outer Idrimi Forest. We know to know where these bandits are. We must have the capacity to face them. We must pursue a comprehensive, offensive, not defensive approach to this matter. For example, if the state of Sokoto and Zamfara and Kebbi could have a joint meeting of the security services there, even with their governors, and make a plan, they could easily get the entire three states free of all these bandits. So the way we are doing it, we just fight them 2 days and we last for 10 days. That will never take us to where we really wanted. It should be, the operation must be sustained wherever it is. Be it in northeast, north central, northwest, southwest, south, wherever it is, it has been sustained, not piecemeal approach which we are now using. And Mr. President, you must all make better use of intelligence gathering mechanism in this country. Because in almost each community, they know, the communities know the informant of these people, they know their locations. We must go extra mile, use the knowledge we have on the operations, on their locations, that they could be defeated. Mr. President, I am confident that with more serious and sustained approach, this issue of insecurity can be tackled in a matter of time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Olurumi.
Plateau North. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for yielding the floor to me, and to say that from yesterday, the nation has been awakened to the statement that you made yesterday, the address, the press conference you held. And through the night, I was watching how it has become a topical issue pertaining to the security of this country. There is renewed hope across the nation with the position that the Senate has taken. And Mr. President, to say that safety of citizens is in great jeopardy is indeed to state the obvious. And of course, the primacy of security and safety of citizens is one thing that the Constitution has amply recognized. Where we are now is, one would wonder, what else should be done? And what else must be done to ensure that the pervasive insecurity in terms of insurgency, banditry, kidnapping is contained and, of course, stamped out? I would want to go straight to align myself with some of the recommendations and solutions that are being profiled. And, of course, I would want to subscribe very strongly, Mr. President, to the initiative and the call for state police. I subscribe very strongly, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to the call for state police. And I've had the fears that have been exercised by some of our colleagues here. And I see those fears largely as elite fears, because our citizens, our ordinary people, would welcome any initiative that will guarantee and consolidate their safety. And when we talk about this state police, the law that will be enacted, that legislation should embed sanctions against clear abuse by governors. And by criminalizing abuse, it's a situation where even when you are out of office, you will have to answer for such excesses. Just as we are seeing African dictators facing the international, the ICJ. So the fact that you are a governor today and you abuse that office, you will be called to account by the time you are out of office. And to clearly embed in the law sanctions that will criminalize such excesses. And further, I want to state that state police will not necessarily vitiate the powers and responsibilities of the Nigerian police. It will not vitiate it, but it will address aspects of security that the Nigerian police has not been able to effectively tackle. Just as my colleagues have said, the situation, like in my state now, is something that the inability of the police to address a situation where whole communities are being attacked and are being vacated and their lands taken over for occupation is something that having a state police can help to address such cases where it has not been able for the federal or Nigerian police to address very critical security situations that are traumatizing the people. So this issue is one that Nigerians and particularly affected communities are looking up to us, this very Senate, to ensure that we amend the Constitution to make provision for states to have capacity to address critical security situations that are affecting the people that have brought us here. Thank you, Mr. Senate President.
To make my contribution to the ongoing debate on national insecurity. My name is Senator Abba Moro, representing the good people of the Benue South Senatorial District, Benue State. Mr. President, without sounding like a broken record, the debate so far has gone on to indicate the failure of our security apparatus to address the prevailing insecurity situation in the country. Mr. President, whether we're talking about the escalating insurgency in the Northeast, or we're talking about the prevailing banditry and cattle rustling in the Northwest, or we're talking about kidnapping, armed robbery, and herdsmen attacks in North Central, Southwest, and Southeast, I think it all goes to show that there is a need to review our approach to the strategies that we use in fighting the level of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. President, I'm not as concerned as the security architecture as I am with the structure and the attitude of our security to the prevailing situation that we find ourselves in. Mr. President, there is no doubt, and many people have indicated so, that a situation where we continue to do the same thing all over and all over with the same approaches certainly will not give us any different result. And that is why over a decade now we continue to talk about insecurity in the country and our inability to be on top of the situation. And so, Mr. President, I think that many people have sounded it here. For every situation, there's certainly a solution. And here we are, we have mandates for offices. Just like every 4 years we leave here to go and seek re-election or reappointment. We must encourage Mr. President to adhere very strictly to these rules by not necessarily extending the tenures of officers who have served. The laws are very clear. The civil service procedures are very clear. 35 years of service or 60 years of age. If you attain any one of them, any further stay is overtime. And that is why we have little problems of lack of commitment, lowering morale amongst our service personnel. And so, Mr. President, I think that without overflogging some of these issues, I want to say that the security situation in Nigeria today and their uniqueness have gone to show, like in politics, that every security problem now is local. If that is the case, Mr. President, I want to align myself with my friends who say that we must find local solutions to some of the local security situations that we have in our hands today. And so everybody knows everybody. And these infractors of security or breaches of security live with us. They are not ghosts. They are human beings. So if we know ourselves, then we must find a legislative framework and law that will make it possible for every sector, be it the state or the local government or the community, to find solutions to their security problems. And so it is in that regard, Mr. President, that I think if we don't have to go the way of the 80th or 7th assemblies that have been indicated here, if we promise to make a difference here, then, Mr. President, we must allow either our relevant standing committees or you must pick up the courage to pick up a committee now that will fashion out a bill that will make it legal for all entities in Nigeria to be able to take steps to be able to protect themselves and ensure the security of lives and property of our people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator.
Katsina State is among the worst states that hit by this insecurity. Sometimes last 3 months, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my governor, of course, he has many initiatives. He formed a team to go inside the forest, Mr. President, to meet these bandits and kidnappers. Of course, I was there. We went almost 150 kilometers off the major road to go inside the forest to meet these people, Mr. President. In fact, it was a very nice experience. Of course, our families were scared. That, look, are you going? I said, yes, I have to go, since my governor is going. So we were there, Mr. President. Of course, you need to see what we saw there.
Distinguished engineer, maybe these are sensitive information.
So, Mr. President, we were there. In fact, inside that forest, they have also what they call Bhuari Daji. You know, we have head of our President Bhuari. So they have also their President Bhuari Daji. That means President inside the forest. And each camp have a leader. They call me being like, of course, a governor of that camp. This forest, from Niger, from Niger to Sokoto, and Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna, and Niger State. And each state in the forest, they have a leader they call their governor, Mr. President. So, of course, you know, the leaders didn't come. They sent their representatives. And all those representatives, of course, my governor was very courageous to ask them, please let them tell us what makes them to be, in that activities. In fact, Mr. President, we were ashamed of ourselves. We heard that, of course, they said most of these problems, of course, is poverty. And most of them, 80% are Fulani from both Niger and Nigeria. They say because the security agents, most of the security agents, some of the security agents, they collided with these cattle rustlers to take away their cows. And they say, of course, they have nothing because as Fulani inside the bush, the forest, they depend on their cows. So, but when they have the cows are no more with them now, taken away by these rustlers, and also in collusion with the security agent. So they say, okay, the last option now is to also start doing these activities. So in a nutshell, Mr. President, I'm calling, at least advise that this chamber has to take this issue very serious. Because if you are in that forest, you see the situation, you know, we cannot just sit down here and continue debating without taking it serious. Because they are ready. Maybe I will tell that, of course, if they are allowed, they could also be like that of, Boko Haram.
Please, your round up.
At least this national, the mic is.
No, you have 30 seconds.
Of course, I'm calling on at least National Assembly to call, to meet the executive to sit down seriously. If that's, possible, it's possible to invite all the governors to at least hear the peculiar problem, so that this problem can be tackled. At least the poverty, we can analyze that it was poverty that caused those people to be bandits, and also, unemployment, and etc. So therefore, we have to make sure that we sit down together as a executive and solve this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Bello Mandia.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Bello Mandia. In the 8th Senate, we are told you chaired a committee that reviewed the security architecture of this nation. What happened to that report? Why have we not made any attempt to implement some of the recommendations you have made? Is it the issue of political will? I think it's important to look at this. There are so many reports about solution. A lot of my colleagues have proposed solution in the areas of state police, community policing, but we all know right now what our people want is how they can go about their normal businesses freely. So whatever the government is going to do to bring about security, I think every one of us will support it. The issue of state police, we know there are processes. The constitution has to be amended, and we know how long that will take. What do we do right now? Secondly, sir, what happened to the state security services? I'm talking here about the intelligence gathering mechanism of that important institution. I think there is a need to also strengthen that. Mr. President, we also talked about unemployment. That is very important. An idle mind, as they say, is a devil's mind. But I think the most important things are, and only recently, this government has said that they are going to, there's an attempt to at least take 100 million out of poverty. I think we should find out how they are going to go about that and give them the necessary support, because I think that will help us to at least calm some of the younger people that are unemployed. Thank you, Mr. President.
That time there was insecurity in Bauchi and Plateau State, which will move a motion for declaring state of emergency in Plateau State. At that same time, I raised a motion to warn one issue in Borno State creating problem. And that if that issue is not stopped, it will go to Yobe to Bauchi, to Kano, and across the country. This has exactly happened. This issue, because the issue was raised on the floor of Senate, and then from the executive, it has not been taken care of. So I'm appealing that now, any resolution we have, you as the Senate President or the leadership should make sure that these resolutions are implemented, because it will help in getting a solution to this continuous crisis of insecurity. Secondly, in the Constitution, there are no roles for the traditional institutions, and they play a role in getting the security situation in the country on track. So therefore, we should have now revisit the issue of traditional institutions and bring them and give them a role to play in the constitution of this country. And the other one, the issue of state police, I have objections to those issues, but I agree with the community policing, because I knew it helped us greatly in using informations on community, like the vigilant group. They gave us informations to handle security situations. And during my time, this was a long time ago, but there was peace within those 2 years I was in office. So, Mr. President, I thank you for setting up this and allowing all members to say a word or two in connection to this serious matter. And I appeal that let's go to resolutions and hope that the resolutions will be implemented by the government. Thank you very much.
Senator Lola Ashru.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Ashiru, representing the good people of Kora South. Precisely, I'm from
almost 51 speakers. And to say that what we have done today is remarkable. And of course, we are only beginning now, because there's quite a lot of things that should happen well after we have concluded today's sitting. I think the point I want to make is for us to ask one critical question, or to observe. Most of the people involved in the rural banditry and kidnappings and whatnot, if you have followed the trend of discussions, majority of them are illiterate. But they are deploying tools and intelligence that you should expect ordinarily from those who have gone to school. So I think we need to address the issue of the educational sector. And in doing so, let us know that the insecurity we are seeing is clearly symptomatic of certain underlying governance failure. And I think quite a number of them have been mentioned in the course of this particular deliberation. Lastly, the other point I would like us to look at is all of us here should have a duty of finding out this issue of community policing or state police, as we say. We need to really dig in and find out how these things operate. Because as it is, we have not put premium on life. People are being killed and we are unconcerned. And I think we need to redefine the meaning of life as guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution, so that should serve as the foundation or the philosophical foundation upon which whatever we talk about insecurity should be built upon. Overall, what is important is that people should be able to move freely, engage themselves in various businesses and the like. Because the moment this is not in place, all the empowerment and all the other things we are talking about will not happen. I align myself with all the discussions, and I want to thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity for us to hear our view.
Mr. President, this is a very important debate we're having. And I don't want us to get lost into the simply current affairs of what is happening today. Those of us that have seen yesterday and day before yesterday will remember that the Nigerian society was not like this in those years. And we should know that in those days, our traditional institutions were effective. Our traditional institutions were really in charge, and they monitor, they intervene even in family matters, not to talk of general society matters. Mr. President, nowadays the traditional institutions are dead. They are only there for ceremonial purposes. One of the speakers here said, traditional institutions used to monitor the movements of every citizen that does not belong to that society, and indeed even their own citizens in their locality. Yes, they used to do that, and by that they used to arrest every situation before it becomes nasty. Mr. Whip, I will take two more, if you don't mind. Mr. President, if these institutions are revived, the question of unemployment, hooliganism will reduce. Let me explain how it will reduce. I know we turn out several thousands of graduates every year. And the vacancies are not expanding. In fact, they are shrinking because of modern technology. Now, but in every home, they have a trade. They have a traditional business. And there are young men and women that return from university. If the traditional institutions were effective, believe me, they will return to their family business, they will develop it, they will give it a modern touch, and they will not roam the streets trying to find job with government. Now, again, we should remember that like adolescent youth who, during their development, they come to a certain age that their behavior is predictable, and although it may not be likable, but predictable. So are countries. I'm sure all of you have watched with delight the Western movies when United States of America was ruled by the underworld, the cowboys. They would raid cities, they would raid hamlets, they would raid villages, they will cut away their cows, which is exactly what's happening today. So Nigeria may be passing through this phase, but we don't allow it to take its natural turn. We should really address the inadequacy of the number of police. They are not enough to police our growing population. Again, they should be well equipped and well trained. Somebody referred to Adewusi, and I remember the Adewusi regime very well because I was in Canada in the Nigerian High Commission. I invited him there. He went and received lecture from the RSMP or something, the Canadian Mounted Police. And they gave him all the tricks. And God bless Shagari, he gave him all the money to buy the equipment to police the country, and he did it effectively. Mr. President, I think I must stop here in view of my other responsibility.
Senator Bamidele, Michael Opeyemi.
And some of the things we go through, Mr. President, I believe is informed by the level of our spirituality. We're actually very dirty before God. That is why we go through these processes. We must learn to accept this. Having said this, let me say, Mr. President, in the 7th Senate, I watched you weep on this row when, at the wake of the insurgency in the Northeast, because you were passionate about your people. Today you are seated as a presiding officer. When this insurgency started, Nigerians underrated it. And they thought it was a Northeast matter or a Borno affair. I remember Senator Zana, the late, kept singing this song that one day it will become a national matter. And I am happy that we agreed that we are going to discuss this matter across political parties. And I commend Bamidele for his song yesterday. Was it yesterday or the other day? But what is happening appears to be a departure.
Deputy Leader, are you on a selfie or something? Okay. But we are not supposed to sit on the aisle. You can take a seat at the back and discuss in low tone.
My time now begins. Now, Mr. President, I am not happy at the progress made on this debate on the insecurity in this country. I want to draw our attention to the provision in our Constitution in Chapter 2, Fundamental Objective and Directive Principles of State Policy. You know, the problem we have is understanding what is government. Anytime we speak about failure of governance, we point to the executive. We forget that we are part of government. We forget that, for instance, the American presidential system, after which we model ours, premise in democratic reform, on democracy being premised on the tripod of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So once government fails, all of us take responsibility. All of us. And the situation in Nigeria today is such that if a memorandum is going to be called, Nigerians will vote that let all of us leave the scene. The entire three arms of government, judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. Because Nigerians can see manifestly that we have failed. Nobody is safe. People kill for sport. And the other day when I said, when you see Nigerians resorting to self-help, you will understand the magnitude of this failure. Because it is a situation that everybody is now a rat race. Everybody should be covering himself now. When I read about the Amotokum concept, I did say I support this because every region should plan how to protect itself. When we are talking about police, I see police playing the very lesser role. Because police themselves are feeling shortchanged. They feel that the activities of managing internal security, which they think should be theirs, had been taken over. Until you interact with these agencies, you will understand very well. And I am amazed, my heart bleeds, that nobody cares that whether there is something wrong in the military, something wrong in the Navy, something wrong in the Air Force, whether there is low morale, nobody seems to be talking about it. And for want of time, I don't want to talk about the people who play to the gallery or religionists. You know, we promote all this. Because Nigeria is a country that are very religious, but our heart is very far from God. Our heart is not with God. We must stop pretending because it is about the sanctity of life. People speak about, okay, this is why we, in hushed tongues, they discuss these things and we all agree. When we come here, everybody appears to be playing Man Friday. This is very dangerous for a nation that wants to lead the entire continent of Africa. Anybody who stays here should be seen as a statesman. But when we come here, you either talk so that they can go and report to your boss, he spoke well about our...
Deputy Minority Leader. Yes, thank you very much. Senator Samuel.
I'm not done yet.
Then you have just maybe 1 minute to round up. Yes.
I want us as a parliament to agree that the security architecture, like you said, had failed. And so we need new heads in these agencies so that morale of men who are growing can be promoted. Because when I rise up as a military officer and I see my senior is there and I retire and I leave him hanging there, and you expect me to give up my best in war front, how does it work? It doesn't work. So, Mr. President, we must treat this issue with genuine open heart, with purity of heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Samuel.
I served in the 6th Senate, the 7th Senate, and I'm here in the 9th Senate. In the 6th and 7th Senate, we discussed the issue and problem of security more than 20 times. In the 7th Senate, the issue of police was equally discussed extensively. Now, Mr. President, it's taking us some 20 years, so to speak, discussing security situation in our nation. Since independence, efforts have been made to provide some strong political and economic structure for our country, taking a look or taking into consideration the ever-increasing population of our nation. But the aspect that we have left untouched is the issue of security. The security system we operate in Nigeria was what was inherited from the colonial masters. And up till now, that is still what we have. That's the architecture we are using. I think the time has come, Mr. President, for us to take a very firm position on the challenges our country is being confronted with today. Mr. President, if you take a look at even the employment nature of the police, it is not democratic and it's not progressive. A graduate of Lagos who joined the Nigerian police in Ikeja went to Ikeja Police College, you transfer him to Kaduna to police. What is he going to police? He doesn't know the people, he doesn't know the norms and value of the people. Policing is a community-based issue. And I think we have to take a look at it from that perspective. One other problem, Mr. President, which we must highlight as part of the reason why we are where we are today, is the fact that our borders are porous. Mr. President, it is not out of place if we decide to take a look at the possibility of building walls around the Nigerian borders. Queen Amina in Kano, in Zaria, in many old cities of Nigeria that were empires before. They had wars around their demarcation. I'm saying in essence, it is not out of place. It is progressive. For us to take a look at it, Nigeria has got the means to build walls around our border. We have got the means. Now, I will say this, Mr. President. Some weeks back, I was coming from Kogi State around 1:30 a.m. And as we were coming, we saw a movement of people. One of them put up his headlamp. The last man, about 100 of them, we saw them on motorbike, brand new motorbikes. A colleague of mine from House of Reps was with me, and I said to him, let us stop and see what is happening. Mr. President, when we look at these guys, they are boys between 35 and 45 years old. And I said to him, these are Boko Haram. He said, are you sure? I said, let us stop. He said, no. The first checking point we got to, I told the policemen, I said, we saw about 100 guys on motorbike. The man spoke to the other person and said, if they are 100, what are we waiting for here? They left. Now, these are the problems. A week after that, Mr. President, I reported to the chairman of security here when I came. A week after that, they started killing people along Lokoja Abuja Highway. A week after that, 2 weeks after the incident, they went to a town called Tawari in Kogi State and killed about 30 people. What am I saying, Mr. President? There is the issue of international conspiracy affecting our nation. Most of the people that you see in Nigeria killing, they are not Nigerians. They are not Nigerians. And more importantly, Mr. President, I've seen clips of cargo planes dropping consignment, motorcycles, and foodstuff for Boko Haram people. We saw them on the internet. So what am I saying, Mr. President? Some 2-3 years ago, Nigerians were comfortable with our government that we have been able to put Boko Haram and other insurgencies in check under Bhuari administration. People have forgotten that under the PDP administration, people were throwing bombs were carried everywhere. So we felt, okay, it is over. So when people saw the emergence of insurgency against Nigeria, that explained the panic. And of course, we should all be concerned. But in essence, Mr. President, state policing is the solution to our problem. Nigeria is a federation. And in a federation, states are supposed to have some elements of freedom.
You can round up.
A vigilante group and equip them. Today it is far better. For people to be saying that state policing is not an issue, it is an issue. Without state policing, Mr. President, we stand and watch until when the nation is taken over by insurgency.
Senator Abraham.
Indicated we may be inviting the IG and his team to come and explain the issue of community policing, which the police has been propagating for the last 1 decade. I think the misunderstanding, Mr. President, is the use of the word police there. It's community monitoring, if you like. Community watch. The wrong interpretation, Mr. President, is that when we say community policing, most Nigerians are expecting a structure similar to the Nigerian police that carry arms and all the like. And that is why people are agitating for state police. Mr. President, if I may quickly say, while I had the opportunity of being the governor of Kano for 8 years, we did and implemented community policing, and it worked. We established what we call the Hisba Guards, and we used the traditional institution to establish the Hisba Guard, Mr. President. We have constituted a committee in every local government, led by the district head. The imam will be there, the pastor will be there, the DPO will be there, the elders of the community will be there, and we saddle them with the responsibility of recruiting 20 responsible citizens of every ward. We have 484 wards in Kano. And at once we ended up with 9,620 Hisba Guards. And we legislated the establishment of the Hisba Guard, Mr. President. The then president even challenged us. We fought him up to the Supreme Court and we defeated the federal government on that exercise. Hisba Guard is still there, is legislated. We saddled the responsibility of coordinating and watching the environment on the traditional institutions. Mr. President, anybody in our environment today, Kano and largely most of the northern states, who is 60 and above, knows that the days of the NA police was very effective. Mr. President, I'm proudly a product of an NA police officer. He retired as the chief inspector of NA police. And they were very effective. Even in the days of the NA police, we used to have what we call Ensandan Saraunia, Queen's Police, local monitoring. They are not the NA police, but they are community policing. It worked. Mr. President, within 2 years, ask anybody from Kano, we were able to eliminate all the serious vices in the community because they are watching it. In fact, it got to the point that most citizens in Kano prefer to report their cases to the police, to the Hisba Guard offices, than even going to the police stations or even going to the court. Because the setup was so good, it was not for arrest and prosecute, but for monitoring and coordinating and guiding the community. So I think, Mr. President, it should be government-driven. We should not wait for anybody to tell us what to do with the community policing. The argument of waiting to have state police does not even arise. We did this, it worked, and it is still working. Finally, Mr. President, I want to say that there are 5 issues.
Point of order, leader.
My name is Tanko Almakura. I represent Nasarawa South. Mr. President, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this all-important debate on the issue of security of our country. Mr. President, as a matter of fact, the most disturbing challenge in our national life today is the issue of security. The situation on ground tells it all, and the views expressed by my distinguished colleagues is also an emphasis to that situation. Mr. President, it is even more scary when you look at the evolution and tempo of security challenges over the years. In the past 10 years, the security challenges facing this country were things that we thought we could handle within the twinkle of an eye, because those problems were merely armed robbery, cybercrime, 419. But as the years rolled by, these security challenges became compounded, became more intensive. Armed robbery, cattle rustling, kidnapping, banditry, and insurgency. You can see the tempo of crime and security challenges increasing by the day. And I think it's high time our security operatives take a more pragmatic approach towards solving this problem. The issue of one problem, one solution solves everything should be a thing of the past. It's high time we got every issue to be taken on its own merits and with its own peculiarity. Secondly, Mr. President, inter-service collaboration is one aspect of our security challenge that we need to see greater improvement. I believe when the inter-service cooperation or collaboration is promoted, the issue of security challenges will be reduced to the barest minimum. We are living witnesses in the past years, to be precise, in 2013-2014, when such lack of collaboration and cooperation resulted in the killing of more than 90 security operatives who went to salvage some people in a certain village in my state. I believe if at that point in time there was proper security intelligence gathering, intelligence sharing, that calamity wouldn't have happened. Mr. President, Another issue that I consider very, very important, and we should take it very seriously, is the issue of security mechanism in our security system, intelligence mechanism in our security system. It is not just enough sending soldiers, battalions to go and fight Boko Haram, fight bandits, fight kidnappers. With all the weapons they have, Mr. President, their efforts will come to naught if there are no proper intelligence that will guide and illuminate their action for success. So I believe while we are talking about security in this country, the emphasis should be properly placed on intelligence mechanism that I believe will give a clear roadmap to proper security success in managing our security affairs in the country. Mr. President, with regard to community police, I think that is a move in the right direction, because by promoting the mechanism of police, community policing, those small crimes that later compound into impossible crimes will be nipped in the bud. And the first step towards that, rather than embarking on full-scale employment of community police, I think the first step to clear the ground for effective management of our security system, when we talk about community policing, is to ensure that all rank and files across the country, up to the rank of an ASP, should be deployed to their various states. If they are there, they are conversant with the terrain, they know who is who, they know where is where. I think that will be the beginning of the success of our community police. If we make it a policy that all rank and files up to the position of ASP to be deployed to their various states. They have already known the rudiments, the terrain, and I believe by the time they graduate into SP, they could be deployed to any other place. Finally, security, the way it is and the way it has gone so terribly bad in this country, requires the participation of all of us. We should not just sleep on our beds, close our doors, and think the army, the police, the SS are angels or spirits that will go and handle any impossible task. We must also be proactive. We must also be security conscious and help, support, and give necessary information and intelligence to these security operatives. I think when there is synergy and all-inclusive participation of all of us towards seeing to the betterment of security in our country, I think we will attain the success we so much desire. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Senator Adiola.
Villagers came out, confronted them, released my two brothers, and went out with my father's wife, who left behind an 11-day-old baby. Also, Your Excellency, few months ago, the same bandits came back to my village and killed the ward chairman of my party in my own ward. I am a victim. Michka Madagali, that I represent here today, from 5th November to 11th January, Boko Haram visited that place 9 times. They turned the place into Boko Haram ban. Whenever they run out of food, they stroll into those local governments, cut away their food, cut away their drugs, empty their shops, supermarkets, and take it back to their forest, almost unchallenged. Mr. President, we never had it this bad. Of recent years, we never had it this bad in this country security-wise. Few days ago, you called me to present you at the burial of the current chairman of my local government that was abducted by Boko Haram and killed like an animal. They slaughtered him. I represented you in that burial. Mr. President, a lot of us have spoken here today, but let me add my voice. Going by the budget office, from 2012 2019, the Nigerian military alone received over 4.5 trillion naira. This is a government budget budgeted by the National Assembly. Service-wide vote and other sorts of funding is not inclusive of these funds. So it's not all about funding. How do our military utilize this? On the 3rd of January, when Boko Haram invaded that community, when they were repelled, they camped after Kuburusha Show, a river within Michka. Security force could not go there because they told me that their vehicle have spoiled. Soldiers. Mr. President, sir, I want to plead. The service chiefs have done their best, but I think they have run out of ideas. When they came in, they came with vigor, they came with force, they came with strength, and we are seeing results. Things have deteriorated. I am calling the service chiefs you appointed on the 13th of July 2015. As of today, the service chiefs have been in office for 4 years, 6 months. We are talking about overhauling the security architecture. There is grumbling within the military. They are grumbling. Silence is no longer golden here. Let me borrow the word of my sister. Yesterday's were survivors are today's victim. Today's survivors are tomorrow's victim. Mr. President needs to reject the security apparatus, and if we need foreign help, we should not be ashamed of asking for foreign help to come and help us. Today, in Borno State, virtually all trunk A roads are shut down in Borno State. Trunk B roads are also shut down in Borno State. Nobody dare move. I call on the President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to look inward. I want to repeat, the security chiefs have done their best. I think it's time to bring in new ideas to come and help this country. Thank you for your time, sir.
Senator Chukukauta.
We have the State Electoral Commission, which does not even carry arms. You only have to give the governor the power with the State Assembly to appoint the commission. And you find that whenever elections are held, the ruling party wins 99.9% or 100% in some cases. The same thing with state police, with arms. Who will talk? Nobody will talk. So for me, I have been against the state police in the 7th Senate. I was against it in the 8th Senate. I'm also totally against it now because it is going to generate more problems than the solution that people keep on saying. We should not politicize the issue of security. Finally, I don't want to talk about Amotokun. That is another issue. But whatever it is, I want to touch on one point. No matter whatever we do as a nation, no matter how we equip our police, no matter how we equip our security agencies, if we don't tackle the issue of unemployment in this country, we'll never get it right. Year in, year out, we produce graduates from our universities, from our polytechnics, from colleges of education, from our secondary schools, doing nothing. They are educated, they know how to live well because they have read, they watch videos, internet, they want to live well, they are doing nothing. Let me tell you a story. Last year,
We have the time for the story.
no, you didn't give me a notice. You didn't give me 1 minute. Last year, friends of mine were coming from Kaduna to Abuja. They were stopped by young men, about 10 of them. Young men, these friends thought that they were kidnappers. So they told them, come out. They came out. The leader of the group said, look, we are not kidnappers. We are not criminals. All of us here are university graduates. You say you are going to Abuja. Continue with your journey, go to Abuja. But when you go to Abuja, tell the Abuja people to give us jobs before we come and get these jobs by force ourselves. This is a true life story. So the issue of unemployment should be tackled in addition to whatever funding, whatever strategy we want to adopt. I think we want to tackle that one. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Tolu Odibi.
And the bears things. We are in an emergency. In terms of creating additional structures, it takes the traffic crisis we have. My colleagues have mentioned that, several people have discussed that. This situation has been predicted long ago for some of us who are in development. If you don't control your population, this is kind of what we have. So if we address the emergency in the immediate term, or medium and long term, we must address our demography. And that's why I associate myself, because of time, to what you have suggested. We must control our population and manage it. And if without doing that, even if we solve this problem, we reduce it, the future of this country is not going to be as it is. The last point, sir, because of time, sir, is that part of the emergency will be to look at socio-economic problems. But in the immediate term, people have suggested things we should do with employment. But on long-term basis, as leaders of today and those that will come tomorrow, we must also address the issue of corruption and be transparent and use our resources well. So, Mr. President, I submit that I associate myself with this motion and with several of the suggestions, including what I've provided. Thank you.
Okay. Senator